No more clickbait, no more sound bites, and no more videos that are over before you blink. No more being told to click this or to share that because some people think you can't think. Choose a new way of doing things. Choose real people. Choose real stories. Choose the Real Talks podcast. Eamon McGee was part of a renowned Donegal defence that brought the Sam Maguire trophy home to the hills of Donegal for the first time in 20 years. However, while the team was being transformed on the field, Eamon too was also overseeing vital changes in his personal life. During this week's podcast, he talks about difficult spells as he had to learn to deal with anxiety, panic attacks, and a relationship with alcohol that resulted in him needing help and support. Having hung up his boots last year, the Gweedore man is extremely proud of his career with Donegal, and while there may be some regrets, there is no doubt that he is now better equipped to live and maintain a balanced lifestyle as he makes that transition into retirement from intercounty football. I straight up want to thank Eamon for his incredible honesty in relation to his own journey, and for believing in the importance of helping others by sharing valuable life lessons. This podcast is brought to you thanks to the support of Kelly Bradshaw Dalton, who for over 20 years have been successfully selling, renting and managing property in the Greater Dublin area. Be sure to check out their website at kbd.ie. That's kbd.ie. My name is Alan O'Mara, and you are listening to episode 6 of the Real Talks podcast.
Well, Eamon McGee is named now at centre half forward for Martin McElhenney. Well, he's not going to play there, we know that. He's the sort of man that if you were involved in a bit of a row outside the chipper on a Saturday night, you wouldn't mind him and Neil being around because I think they certainly would sort things out.
Get involved in things like that.
No. He's a man for the big day and a man for the big game, and I think that Donegal having the McGees and their defensive setup are a much better team.
Jimmy's winning matches. Jimmy's winning games. Jimmy's winning matches. Jimmy's winning games. Jimmy's bringing Sam back to Donegal again. Bringing Sam back to Donegal again. Bringing Sam back to Donegal again.
Well, listen, Eamon, just first of all, want to thank you for coming on to the podcast. I think you've been listening to a few over the last couple of weeks, and we've been really fortunate to have great variety of characters, great individuals, different counties, different levels. And there was two big reasons why your name came to mind and why I really wanted to get you onto the podcast. And one was actually to get a good solid defender in the mix there. A lot of them have been the boys won't mind me admitting
it's always the forwards,
the flashy forwards. But I suppose the other one, just been recently retired and just emerging sort of out of the intercounty scene, because I think a lot of the lads over the previous couple of weeks have all touched upon trying to find balance and different things when you're in it. And I think I'll just start off the first question with, how has life been since you stepped outside of that bubble, and how are you now?
Life's good now. Like at the time when I retired, you know, I probably didn't really know the massive decision that I'd made, like, and it wasn't until, you know, it was about 2 months, maybe 3 months afterwards that I went through a bad, like, a downer or whatever you want to call it, you know, through a bad kind of, I was in bad form, and you know, I struggled with that, you know, our whole identity, you know, as a Gaelic footballer and as an athlete, and I was stepping away from that, so I definitely struggled with it, and but I think that happens to everybody. It's how, like, some people have the tools to deal with it better than others, and you know, I'm in a far better in the spot now, sorry, and you know, just to sum it up, I struggled, but I'm in a good spot now.
I don't think you'll be alone in that club at all, and even I speak to lads, even if they're in their mid-20s and they're taking a break for a year, they would struggle with similar things. Is part of that, I'm just wondering, is that because you leave a very structured, probably a structured environment is the easiest way to describe it, and then you step out a little bit into the unknown, and there's a lot more decisions to make and freedom. Is that can be, I suppose, a good thing and a bad thing? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. There's a part of that, all right. You know, when you're I think it's a well-known kind of phrase, when you're part of the bubble and you don't see anything outside that bubble, or you're oblivious to it, and when you suddenly step outside of it, and small things where you're going to the gym and you're paying for your gym membership, you're I think for the first time in 15 years where I had to pay for a pair of shorts. Small, that's only tiny things.
Yeah.
But then you're going, you have free evenings, you're not getting up in the morning for gym. Your diet, you can eat as much chocolate as you want. You're not feeling shit after you eat a bar of chocolate and thinking, geez, I must, kind of work harder now tonight to work that off or whatever. And the whole life is impacted. And then when you walk away and you're away from that, all that, and it's like a teenager when he suddenly finds himself in college and there's this massive freedom and he doesn't know what to do with it. And sometimes he can struggle for a period of time. And I think that's what a lot of people do when they do retire, that they find this, they're outside the bubble. And sometimes they struggle and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, because I think with both, and most people listening will relate to it as well, is that like within any team environment, you get lads are wired very differently, and some are even under a management team, some will be very self-driven and accountable to themselves and hold their own. I know from my experiences, I always like when it comes to gym and diet and stuff, even so, I'm on a break at the minute, and I know within a couple of weeks my diet goes down, my the number of gym sessions go down because I'm not being held accountable to someone else. And was chartering that, and sort of, the only person you're ultimately accountable now is yourself. Does that bring, like, is it difficult, or does it bring complications, or?
Yeah, it definitely does, because I always needed that someone to give me the extra wee push. I would have struggled with gym and diet and, that extra percentage where all the top players, it comes naturally, like the Michael Murphy or Carl Lacey or Neil McGee, it comes naturally to them. It wouldn't have come naturally to me, that to really come outside the comfort zone. And, now that there's nobody pushing me and there's no, like, obviously there's a bit with the club, but it's not as intense atmosphere, or, the end goal might not be as serious, or whatever way you want to put it. And so there's more responsibility on me as myself, and I do struggle a wee bit with it, because and that's fine too. Like I was talking about it earlier on, I was playing soccer at a junior level down Gweedore there, and I'm a terrible soccer player, and some young fella shouted on from the sideline and says, Eamon, you're shit now. You're too old, you're shit.
What do you say back to that?
And I was thinking, that cheeky wee bugger. Like,
yeah.
But then I thought that's okay. Like I'm old, I'm getting old. He's right. I'm getting old, and I am shit at soccer, and that's okay. Like you have to accept that this is another stage of it. And like we'd all love to be Peter Pan, and being part of that high pressure environment I loved every second of it, and I loved every anytime we got together as a panel. I just love that environment. But there's stuff now I'm starting to see, as I come out of it, and there's stuff that I see, like I can go for like a bite to eat anytime I want in the evening time. I can reading far more. I love reading, and I'm finding I'm not wrecked tired after a day's training, a day's work, and there's stuff now, there's doors open, and I can see, oh geez, this is part of it. So it's just another step, and I'm starting to see that it's not the end of the world to be a retired Donegal footballer.
You mentioned even something as simple as either having the time or even the energy to sit down and read. Yeah. I presume you've consciously had to navigate the void that's left there, and if it's your weekly schedule or your lifestyle, have you had to try and place things in there? Like I know you mentioned soccer there as well, but have you been actively looking to go, I need to try different things here, and I need to flex my wings a bit?
Not for the first two months,
okay.
And at the end of it, I was a nightmare to live with, and probably, like from a young, early stage of my career, I would have struggled in terms of the mental health side of it, and I would have made a lot of wrong decisions, and I thought I had come through that, but I could see old behaviours coming back, and I had to go back to the tools that I'd acquired during that time and try and work my way out of it. But for about 2 months, like I'd done nothing. I didn't fill the void. I've already filled it with old habits, bad habits, and I probably reverted back to the, not completely, but there was parts of me, old behaviours creeping up, like. And, just Joanne just had to pull me up and say, listen, you get back and do something in the gym, or you get back and do what got you in a good form in the first place. And,
trying to be more proactive with that time that you have.
You have to try and, fill that gap or fill that void. And, me being me, I didn't listen to her at the start, and I knew it all, as a lot of people seem to point out that I do think I know it all. And obviously, like, the form got bad, and I had to try and take in a more balanced lifestyle here, and get back to using them tools that I'd acquired. Like.
Okay, so yeah, you're a little bit further down the line, I think, now, and you've navigated to an extent that tricky spell that would have came. And as I said, I think I said it already, but I think a lot of people will go through that at different depths or different levels. The stage you're at now, are you at a stage now where you're comfortable looking back on playing with Donegal and the spell that you had as a player there?
Yeah, I'm comfortable. My decision has taken me a while now. I'm comfortable with the decision I made, and when I look back, obviously there'll be regrets. I don't fully buy into this, go through life without any regrets. It's just how you deal with them regrets, whether they keep you up at night. And in this last while, like my career with Donegal, I do have regrets, but they're not going to keep me up at night. I'll be able to put the head down the pillow while sleep, and I'll say, yeah, I gave it all, I gave it a blast. And the times I didn't, that was just part of it too. That it was all part of the learning curve. And there's not a lot I can do about it now. That I regret that I didn't buy into the whole, pre-Jim McGuinness era. We didn't know how to, but Jim showed us the way. Okay. And I regret that there was a few years there that, we squandered a lot of talent and a lot of, the gifts we had. And but like, I'll still sleep at night. I'll still look back in my Donegal career with fondness and with pride too, and some of the best times in my life. And it's just part of it. Like, we have regrets, but it's how we deal with them. Like.
Yeah, would you see sort of not just your own sort of career, but in around the time spell, and you've touched upon it there, before Jim and after Jim, do you see a bit of a split in how you went about it and how you focused on it?
Massive split. Yeah. How we looked at ourselves as GA players, or how we conducted ourselves as GA players, both on and off the field, was it was just night and day. People talked about, why did you not do it before? Like, but we didn't know any other way. This was passed on to us. This is the way.
The culture.
The culture.
Yeah.
That's what the culture was. And when Jim McGuinness came in, initially, you're there, he's on about 1-0 Ireland's, and you're there, I've heard all this before. I've heard it with 3 different managers, and people have talked about 1-0 Ireland's, so I was very, very sceptical of him. And me and Jim he dropped me from the panel for the first few months, because from my initial meeting with him, I says, geez, I'm away for a few pints here. And he got word of it, and he says, I don't need this. This is it. This is the old Donegal. This is not the Donegal that I want to be part of. So he dropped me, and thankfully he asked me back now. But from the Donegal team that I pre-Jim to the Donegal team that I ended up with are 2 totally different animals. It's hard to explain until you experience it now, but it's basically night and day. It's just polar opposites of each other. Like.
Yeah, because I was reading up on yourself last night and was doing my digging around online, and just to remind myself of sort of your career as well. And obviously, because in my mind as a young player, I came through, probably started playing, was involved in the senior panel in 2011, and sort of from that moment, from that year on, I would have just seen you as this Mr. Dependable, real rock at the back of a Donegal defence that really became famous in the game. But I think, I don't think you'll mind me saying this, but I don't think I had that was my perception of you. Yeah. But would it be fair to say that you weren't always Mr. Dependable before that yourself?
Oh, jeez, I don't think you needed a sports degree or sports psychology degree, as Jim had, to know that day. And
Because I think you make your debut in 2004, is that right?
Yeah, 2004, joined the squad 2003, and first against Antrim in 2004. And I wouldn't have made my debut, like I was in at a young enough age, and I was a good player. Like there was never any doubt about that. And I got 3 or 4 chances with different managers, and I wouldn't have been asked back if I was a shit player. And so I knew that I had ability and I had potential. And I think, I don't want to sound vain or cocky here, but like I had the potential to actually be at a level of Michael Murphy or Carol Lacey or Neil McGee, but because I messed about in them first few years, I'm never able to got to that level. And there's probably a tier above that, and I don't want to sound cocky when I say that, but that's just how I see it. People might
makes perfect sense.
Disagree with you, or disagree with me, but and that's just part of it too. Like I'm not gonna lie awake. As it says, I'm not gonna lie awake at night thinking about that there. And but no, there was definitely a stage through the noughties that I was renowned more as a partier and than a footballer, and maybe throwing 2 or 3 good games a year. The rest of them were just average enough, and that was part of my journey. Like,
where like that sort of, if it was the messing or the instance of this indiscipline or whatever it was, where does that come out of? Because as a young man, are you struggling with the commitment that's required? Are you just sort of what's going on in your mind at that point? And when you look back now, a little bit of perspective, and just you can answer or not if you don't want to. But I'm just interested.
I'd be fairly open enough, like that. And I think it was apparent. Like you didn't, as it says, you didn't need to be a genius to know that I would have struggled off the field, and as a result of that, I would have struggled on the field too. Like. And for me, it was just culture at the time. The lads all enjoyed their pints, and didn't take things too seriously. So it suited me, but none of the lads suffered from anxiety attacks or panic attacks, or they didn't develop a dangerous relationship with alcohol out of that there. And that was part of what happened with me. And all them lads grew out of that.
Sure.
I never grew out of that phase then, and that's where I was at. It was a social scene, and it was a big enough social scene. It was a big part of it, and unfortunately, I had other things going on in the background too, and you add that in, and it was just a bad combination. It wasn't conducive, is that the word, to an elite athlete. Like.
It's an interesting one, and certainly when I spoke with Kevin McMahon on the first episode, he would have talked about particular performance anxiety. I myself have had my own experience, if it's of depression or of anxiety as well. And it's something actually I was weighing up quite recently, in that football was often a great release from that, but it also stirred it up at times as well. And in a person that's feeling anxious or going through a spell of anxiety, some lads will zone out and be able to zone out for an hour, but others will be driven the other way, and it magnifies it within. And did you ever feel you were spending energy trying to hide that up and conceal that up? Was that a struggle?
It was a struggle, surely. You're sitting, for me, buses was a big one, and I'm sitting on the bus and just sweating, and
just on the way to a game,
or coming on the way to college or something.
Okay.
And you're trying to, you don't want anybody else to know, and you're jittery, and it was a wild struggle to hide it. And I think I did a good enough job of hiding it and covering up, to my credit, because it was bloody tight going. Like, it was, you're thinking you're going to die or you're going to have a heart attack on a bus, and it's tight stuff. Like.
Yeah, it's just something I've thought about, because I've had moments like that as well. If you're on you say the bus is there. I remember going to one game and just getting this wave after wave of anxiety. Yeah. I'm on the way to the game, like a bit of a niggle in my groin. Then I'm thinking like I can't play. I can't play. I can't do this. And then I was just lucky. I remember on that day, after 10 minutes, it just relaxed and it went away. But yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think because everyone out there there'll be people in the stands shouting, "He's not at it today. He's useless. He's this. He's that." And sometimes people just never stop to think, When I was looking at it, so Donegal to bring it on up in 2010, Donegal have a low ebb of a championship. There's 2 defeats. It's to Armagh, the qualifiers, and to Down in Ulster. Could be Down or Down. Yeah. And you're not involved at that stage, are you?
No, I went to London, and then you know the boys are on the phone. This is our year. This is our year. Things are going well, and like.
So you're still in London in 2010.
I'm in London 2010.
Okay.
I come back for the Down game. I'm not fit enough.
Right.
Terrible shape, you know.
Okay.
And I think I came on in the Armagh game. So I came back literally. I was in London for the first half of 2010 and came back about a few weeks before the first round of the championship, Ulster Championship. Played a wee bit of the Armagh game, and Armagh hammered us, and that was probably the lowest. This is where you're thinking Donegal are never going to win anything. We're not going to win an Ulster Championship, never mind an All-Ireland Championship. And then you fast forward just 2 or 3 months later, and Jim McGuinness is sitting down with you telling, this is the 4-year project, he call it, and we will. It wasn't we might, it was we are going to win an All-Ireland Championship or All-Ireland final here. And after 2 years you had won it, so it's amazing the vision he had and the drive he had. But when you first met him and him talking about All-Irelands, and that the All-Ireland was, he knew it was going to happen. The problem was how are we going to change this Eamon? How are we going to change the old Eamon into the Eamon that I want, part of the squad? And that was the gist of the conversation. I was saying, never mind that there.
This is a one-to-one conversation you guys are having.
Yeah, and I was saying, never mind that. Let's talk about how you're going to win All Ireland here. What's this grand plan? And this is what I wanted to talk about. But he kept on. Now forget about that there. I want to get back to here. And I says, don't worry about me. I'll be all right. And 1 hour later, I was in the pub telling this Jim McGuinness man it's going to be winning All Ireland.
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. And
so safe to say you're not a believer at that stage.
No, I wasn't a believer, and then it took me a few months. I was living at home at the time. I seen Neil, and I was good mates with Neil Gallagher and Christy Toy, and I seen there was just something about they weren't talking, they weren't telling me anything. Neil McGee was coming home, and he was just absolutely wrecked. I never seen him so tired, and I could see that there was just a commitment there, and there was, you know yourself, you're part of something,
of course.
And I was getting a wee bit of that there from the lads,
and you're seeing changes in their behaviours.
Yeah. And then you're thinking, geez, there's something going on here, and thankfully Jim came back and he asked me, and he says, listen, do you want to be part of it? And he says, oh, we need assurances here, and we sat down. He came down, he met me in my sitting room, and we sat down, and he was there we need assurances, and we put stuff in place that, will help me. And it did help me in the long term. That was the start of my sorry, it wasn't the start of it now, but it was the main turning the road for me, to get into forward. Yeah. Because I touched on other stuff before throughout the early noughties, to try and because I was in such bad form, I knew it wasn't normal, so touching stuff and maybe spend a week or two at it and do this. And obviously I never put in the hard work, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to just get normal like everybody else, but not put in the hard work. And that's just not the way life works, unfortunately. There's no magic cure. Maybe they will find something that'll just make you feel right. And that was Jim McGuinness meeting me in the sitting room was part of the start of the journey, sir. Yeah,
because I think you mentioned that those previous attempts or previous efforts, if it's getting help in whatever way, shape or form that was, and obviously I can certainly relate to a lot of what you're saying there. And one of the things that always comes to my mind, and I would say this quite regularly from in school, is that when someone's not feeling well or feeling down, through any whatever it is, be it anxiety, be it depression, or whatever it is that when a person feels like that, the only thing they want is not to feel that way. So even when you go and try something, you're like, well, I did that once and I still feel the same. And even I remember when I went to counselling, there was times I felt worse afterwards. And I'm like, what's this all about? But for Jim to sit you down and look at you in the eye at that stage, and this is obviously you've had that chat, and he comes back to it and has the conversation. And actually, I read his book a couple of years ago when it came out, and I was flicking through it again last night, and there was one line that I really loved. around yourself, and I'm gonna pull it out here and just give you a blast of it.
Be good near now.
No, because I think you've touched upon and you've been really honest about certain struggles beforehand and trying to make that transition. And like I was scribbling on, and you referenced it already, that you actually became the metaphor in Jim's mind at the beginning of old versus new.
Yeah.
But he says when you ring him and say it won't happen again, he says to you, it won't happen again because it's over. I told you in the house I couldn't be in this position. But jumping on to that conversation in May, and you obviously go back in, and I presume you've got the bit between your teeth at this stage, taking a step back in. And the stories are around from the fitness work that would have been done, the hard work. So you're catching up on that front as well. Would that be to put it kindly?
Me and Paddy McBurdy ended up on the squad around, I think it was May or April time. I don't know what time it was, but I remember for the first 2 weeks and I was thinking, holy Jesus, like this is crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be able to stick it. And but you know, I kept the head down, and I'd be very, very tran, as they call it up here, or just stubborn. And I know I couldn't let them know that I was struggling as badly, like, but I kept at it. And
because you did keep at it, and I'm gonna just quote one or two, because there's just a come on to the line that I really like here. But look, Jim says that it was heavy going when you came back, but this is the bit I loved. It says, so at this stage you still see no minutes, and he calls you down in the All-Ireland quarter-final against Kildare, and I'm quoting here, and he says, and he walks into a game of that magnitude and he is brilliant, he is awesome, on the front foot, brave, confident, dealing with high balls, getting his hand in to break up ball, cleaning his man out, born for it. A first team player ever since, and long through that period in his life. And this is the line that I just loved, was watching him become what we all knew him to be, manning up to face up to everything that was wrong in his life and to change it. That's a really strong and powerful line. And as I read that out to you, what do you think, or what was through your mind as I go through that?
No, it was kind of sentimental, like, because I do owe him so much, you know. I've awful lot of, like, I credited him so much, but not just for sport, from a sporting perspective, but I credit him for, you know, just getting things in place. And I met him up at his book launch that night, you know, when we were chatting afterwards, and he says, all I did was show you the door, like. And in fairness, that's what he did. I had to walk through the door and do whatever, like. But you know, I would have been wandering about, probably struggled to play club football had I kept on going the road I would have been on, like. And it hasn't been easy, like. It wasn't so Jim McGuinness came in and it was magic.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just going to ask you on that. But
yeah, it was an easy journey, like, but it was a worthwhile. Like, I have a wee kid now. Daisy's there, and you know, probably Daisy wouldn't have been there only for Jim had come into the sitting room, and that's a powerful thing to say. Like, that's a massive thing to say, and that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, because I think, and that is a hugely important point I think you've said, is that it's not as if someone sits you down and says, listen, you're struggling here, going to help you, and then gone, everything's fixed. It is a door and it is a path, and you're also does your own personal journey in a way sort of mirror Donegal journey then over the following couple of years? Do you start emerging from that spell a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's been bandied about before, you know, that Eamon was a kind of metaphor from Donegal party boy to, you know, a serious outfit. And I suppose it could have been said, you know, there was a lot of party boys in that setup, you know. There's a lot of boys enjoyed the good times, and they're all serious, really, really serious about the football now. But you know, it was just part of it. Like.
Actually, so going back to that, so Jim calls you down in the Kildare game, and you get fired in Croke Park. And you've obviously, like, and I've no doubt about it that you slogged and you dogged for those 2 or 3 months before that, after coming back in.
Yeah.
And I remember that game because I was actually working at it. I was in Croker at the time. It was a belter, like.
That game.
And then from that to go into the Dublin game, which is for a whole different variety of reasons, is a real monumental game and in the whole evolution of Gaelic football, really. And even though you lose that game, is has Jim's talk gone from being, look, we're going to do this, to now you're like, after you get over the actual defeat, does the idea of winning All Ireland now seem a lot more real? I suppose that's the question that I'm asking.
Yeah, you're thinking you're in a All Ireland semi final, and you're thinking, right, we're competing, we're up against Dublin here. We competed, we know we've work to do in the offensive side of things. We know we can loads improving this year one. But there's also the side of you, the human side of you, thinking, have we blown our chance now? Have we thought, are we one of them teams that have one good year and is gone? Like, and there are them wee doubts at you. And, Jim got us back fairly early. He got us in the gym program. And quickly dispel once you get part of the setup again, and he's talking to you, he's making you believe again. And you know yourself once you're putting in the hard work. Like, I always say that if I'm ever coaching or training a group, like, the training ground is where you do it. Like, there was no, like, you know yourself, you're part of a club, and you've been part of inter-county setup too, that you ever hear these crisis meetings. Like, the crisis meetings in our club would have happened on a weekly basis, but nobody realised that, we couldn't put the ball over the bar from 13 yards, but, like, we're going to have a meeting about it. Why do we not do it out in the field? Or we're unfit, so let's have a meeting about it. Why do we not do it out in the field?
Sure.
And that's the way it was with Donegal. I was marking Murphy, I was marking McFadden, I was marking Paddy McBrearty. And if I'm doing well in them, like, sure, what do I have to be afraid of? Like, there's not many players in the country that I have to be afraid of. And sometimes I did. Like, I was going well in 2013, flying and training, like, and Kieran Hughes roasted me in Ulster final. Like, so them days happen. You have to accept that. But, you're giving yourself your best chance, your best, putting your best foot forward. If you're consistently doing and training every night, you keep on pushing and pushing and pushing, then more often than not, you're going to have a good game. Like, and it gives you a bit of belief too. People say some people have prayers, some people have, some different method of having that backup. For me, it was training hard and during the week, and I knew that if I trained hard, I wasn't nervous about a game. The only time I was nervous is if I wasn't really training hard, and then I haven't trained too hard. I don't know, will I be able to get to this ball? But if I'd trained hard and done it on the training ground, then there was never nerves.
Yeah, the training angle and aspect is a really interesting one, because, like, okay, look, I've absolutely no doubt that Jim was an incredible manager, had a really strong vision, come in, had to sell that. Even on the one-to-one basis, you've given the story of how you sit down and had that conversation. So really powerful man management. But I think, amongst all that, sometimes people forget about the graft and the grind and the hard work that has to be done, and they let that get lost in the romanticism of it all.
The cult of the manager.
Because I think, and you know well just as well as anyone, because what I'm finding with the podcast, there's a lot of other inter-county players who listen to it as well, and there'll be loads of us sitting around thinking, Dublin and Kerry's here, or Mayo's up there, like, how do we get that, and how do we fix that, or how do we close the gap? And everyone's sitting around thinking, we just need a manager, or we need to get this different manager in, or that one. I just ask you to elaborate a little bit on, obviously, the good manager needs to be in place to facilitate a lot of this, but you think the grind is the most important thing that comes behind it?
I think that's massive, and it annoys me now so much when I see teams, giving out about Dublin financial. Like, when you're talking about, nobody's talking about Dean Rock hitting frees. Dean Rock's a completely different player than he was 4 or 5 years ago. The hard graft he's put in, nobody's talking about the condition the Dubs are in, and the graft they have to put in. And obviously Jim Gavin has to facilitate this, but 80%, possibly 85% of what Dublin do is the hard graft. There's a financial side that there, obviously, that gives them another few percentage, like, but teams giving out about, you have a few Leinster teams giving out, we can't compete with that in a financial level, or, look at the resources Dublin have. Like, there's nothing to stop them lads going out and, blasting out a good training session, getting into the gym, kicking balls and all this, like, and people forget that, and people talk about systems and, we need a system. Like, what you need to do is work hard, progress yourself, and then at the end of that talk about systems. or else we can marry the two of them, and work hard while progressing with the system. But there's no team in the country, no team in the world that gets anywhere without the hard work. And it really annoys me when I hear this talk about we can't compete with that there, we can't, we need a manager and all this, like, and get out and do it, and get out and train to the level Dublin are training at, get out and train to the level Mayo are training at. And then if that doesn't work, then have a moan then and say, right, what are we doing wrong here? What can we improve about? But a lot of people are moaning. They're going out and messing about during the week, training 50-60% and expecting that to beat Dublin or beat the top teams in the country, And you look at, there's a few county boards that have to take a look at themselves too in terms of how they apply themselves. People are talking about spreading the wealth around, or why should Dublin, because they've got the house in order and because they've got they're doing things right, why should they have to share with some other county board who can't organise a piss up in a brewery, like? And that's, there's so much needs to be done right in the J. Like, obviously I love the J and it's a great thing, like, but there's so much needs improvement on, like, and I think that this morning and all that, I went away in a rant there, sorry.
Yeah, right. No, because it's really good, and you've mentioned sort of what frustrates you, and one of the things that frustrates me, and I'll put it to you, is that, so you've come along and Jim has obviously designed this system to suit your personnel, to suit what you have, and really build on that. But the thing that annoys me is then once someone does something like that, everyone tries to copy it, like. Instead of saying, or looking at the personnel going, like, what have we got? How do we make the most of it? And think outside the box a little bit. What was it like for you then to go to, so say you blitz teams, you catch them on surprise because you're playing the way you're playing, but then when everyone sort of starts doing that, what was that like from a player's perspective? You're out on the pitch. What's that feel like? Or do you think about it?
I probably didn't really, feature too much in my thoughts. But, when you think back to it and you possibly look at it during the week, and, there's certain teams going to set up the same way that we set up, and you're just thinking, geez, this is the ultimate compliment. And this is another thing, like, that there's people giving out about the state of the game. The state of the game, it was suffering, and it's in a healthy spot. The game's grand, but they had a few bad games because all these managers started coming out. Jim McGuinness had a vision and he sold that product, and he had a way of seeing the game. If I'm going to coach a team, I can't copy Jim McGuinness's thing. I have to have my own vision, my own kind of coaching philosophy.
There's so little originality in it.
Yeah. And was it one of those shades that says if all the Ulster boys started Irish dancing, we'd be Irish dancing, like Joe Kernan, I think, started this whole for us, and whatever Armagh did, we copied them. Yeah. And we were trying, what are Armagh doing? Then there was Tyrone. What are Tyrone doing? And then, there was no thing. Well,
what's right for us?
Let's go out. Let's look at our players and find out.
There's been loads of the morning training sessions, a training camp away. Yeah. What sort of keepers coming up to take frees? Like, just because Stephen Cluxton's class at it doesn't mean you have to bring your keeper up. And you might be a 50% shooter or whatever. But yeah, that's my mini rant in one way, shape, or form. But
Donaghy, the long ball, he'd done that because it suited Donaghy. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, you have every club team in the country had a big man on the edge of the square.
You can't catch it.
He can't catch it. He can't move, and as he says, there was no originality in it at all. Like this, that worked for Kerry, sure, we'll throw him in. Like.
Yeah. Just as I move on, because I'm going to leave the football strand of the conversation behind now in a second, but when the decision came to retire, one of the things I laughed at, and I just want to ask you about it, is the way you chose to release it in terms of a Lord of the Rings statement. Yeah. What was going on in your head as you said that, or where did that come from?
I'll tell you, it was, as I said earlier, I would have been love books, like. Yeah. And Lord of the Rings is up there, one of my favourite books, and Lord of the Rings is so big that you need to read it a few times.
I've read it a few times myself.
Yeah. And what that passage there stuck out to me. There was just something about it. There was
There's meaning in it.
There was meaning in it, and it always resonated with me. And you know, the initial plan was to go out after the game. You know, as says, me and Colin McFadden had chatted about this, and this says, you know, this is the last year, and whenever we do lose or whenever we do go out or whatever happens, then I'm just going out to the reporters and saying, right, that's me, bye, I'm retired. When I came to it, I didn't have the balls to do it, like, and I was thinking, geez, I'm not going to go out and just say that's me, retired. So I jumped on the bus.
Okay.
So I was just lying in bed the following day, and I said, listen, I need to get this out of the way and done and dusted. And
just for peace of mind and
yeah,
to
and
start processing it.
That's the decision. This decision was made, and you know, just to take action on it. And you know, just this bit here, this passage resonated with me, and I enjoyed it. It was just it was a bit of crack too. You know, I think that we take ourselves too seriously. You know, these big retirement statements. Thank everybody from my under 10 coach right up to my, you know, my girlfriend, my partner, or whatever. And there was a bit of crack in it too, and it was. I thought it suited the retirement too.
Yeah, you've mentioned it twice now in terms of love of reading and different things. What would be on your reading hit list? What would be your what would be your go-to?
At the minute, it's kind of bizarre enough. Reading my bookcase is just kind of all over the place. At the minute, I'm reading Stephen King. On writing, it's a kind of part autobiography, and part tips on how to write. And I've no intention of how to start writing or anything like that. There, it's just that I love Stephen King. And then there's another book then on quantum physics. You know, Brian Cox is one of. I have a few books on quantum physics, and I cannot get the head around it at all. Like, so this is the last throw of the dice for quantum physics. And if this doesn't work, it's just I'm not going to understand it, and that's it. You
know, I love it because I think I've brought this up before, but I was a kid. I was a mad reader as well. Like, I went mad Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, all that stuff. And actually, for some reason, when I start playing football or start getting sort of successful football, I sort of bury that side to me. And I just thought, should I just throw it in there? So if anyone's ever listened to this and knows reading, keep reading. Like,
definitely. Hey, you know, reading's massive. Hey, that you know, you create wee worlds when you're reading. You know, your version of how you see Harry Potter or Hogwarts is far different from my Hogwarts. Obviously, the similarities now, but how we see it, and I think that's amazing. Like that. You're building entire worlds in your own mind, and you know, something Stephen King was touched on in his book. You know that you know, J.K. Rowling's talking to us. She's not using her lips or anything. She's talking to us. It's telepathy, and she's going to talk to some kid in 100 years, and he's going to have a vision of Hogwarts. Will have similarities, but it's different. You know, if that makes any sense. You know, I think there's some quite powerful about that. And
completely. The but I was doing my as I was going through sort of different online articles and books and Twitter feeds and stuff last night and over the last few days to get ready for today, I came across a really interesting. I think it was a march that you were involved in earlier this year. And I just picked out the. I picked it out because it interests me for a couple of different reasons. I suppose Mark's trying on that believes that we as society would benefit from science, critical thinking, and evidence-based approach to policy making. And the critical thinking was the bit that jumped out to me. I think in a world where there's so much information, there's a severe lack of it.
Yeah.
And just in your own words, you might explain what critical thinking is to you, or how you view that, or what the importance of it is.
Just on that, you know, a good example I'd use for that situation would be the fake news on Facebook, right? So I read Facebook have taken slack for it, taken a bit of stick for it. And when I read an article on Facebook, you know, there's people that immediately assuming that's fact. And I could say Eamon McGee is, you know, caught same restaurant as Rosanna Davidson or some model or whatever like that there. Oh, that's true because it's on the internet. And you know, for me personally, I would say just there's no need for Facebook to start removing these fake news things. They should be the onus should be on the individual to go and, you know, right, that's an article there, or there's information. I need to go and check this. I need to go and confirm it, and check other sources, and to get into that mindset, because there's too much of just, I read something on Sky News, or I watch something on Sky News, or I read something in the paper, immediately assume it to be true, and you have to become, for us to become a better society, I believe anyway, there should be a bit more investigation, a bit more, as I say, critical thinking, and that's the way we improve, and that's the way. There's so much doubt over climate change. When, like, for me, and if I was to talk to scientists, about climate change, it's the same thing as saying, "Oh, I believe the Earth is flat," but people out there are given a platform to talk and say, "Oh, climate change isn't real, or global warming isn't real, and it's not human. It's not caused by humans," and stuff like that. There gives that fuel. It adds it to the fire and gives it a platform. And I think that if we were to promote something, if we were to change something in our schools, there should be far more of that, critical thinking and evidence-based stuff, and it's just far better for I believe anyway. You might, and other people might not think that's to be the case, but I think as a society we're better off going in that direction rather than the atmosphere around now and the climate around now.
Yeah, it's something that I brought up for, I suppose one of the reasons was, like I mentioned to you before we started, that I'd be qualified as a journalist, and like critical thinking has almost evaporated from that space. So, and like the classic example is one news organization puts up a story and it's automatically on another 5 within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So they've just gone, okay, they've done it, and presume that it's true, that that it is what it is, and they just take it, and then because they take it, someone else takes it, and then they take it on, and then everyone's looking at this and just goes, "Oh, that's what happened."
Yeah.
And I just find that, like, particularly like it's one of the few industries that's meant to critically think and observe and monitor, and like that's a very frustrating thing to me. And I was going to sort of tie that in with yourself. Obviously, you've moved on to doing column work with the Star. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, Star. Yeah.
And just how have you found that transition, or that sort of, or doing that role really?
It's different. I enjoy chatting about football. There's 20, 30 different columnists out there all chatting about something. So obviously I have to give my own side to it, and try to be different.
Do you like that, like, opportunity or responsibility to be able to do it?
I do. I enjoy it. Like I think there was 1 or 2 columns at the start where, there was a bit of stick for stuff I did like, and I'd want to say that through the wildest with Donegal, and there's been plenty of stories, and I always try to throw in a wee story, because what I would read myself, if I enjoyed, oh geez, that happened in Kerry or that happened in Dublin. And I don't condone or condemn any of it. This stuff happened. Like, and I try to give a good enough view that there was a lot of bad stuff happened to me too. Like that the drinking wasn't all glamorous, because there's a few people saying, "Oh, you're glamorizing drinking with all these stories and all this kind of crack." And I definitely didn't try to glamorize it. This thing's just happened. Like, I also tried to balance it out by saying, like, I ended up in rehab, and I struggled with my stuff off the field, like, and there was that side of it, and I was kind of taken aback by the bit of grief I got.
Okay.
Because I wasn't kind of prepared for it at all, and we all love to be universally loved. We all want people to think, "Oh, he's sound, he's a good guy," and I had to kind of check myself and just go back to the football, like, because when I was playing football, it didn't matter anybody from Cavan said about me, or anybody from Armagh or anybody from Cork said about me. It didn't affect the group play, and that's the same way I have to take it with, like, I'm going to say stuff on the column and I'll set people. The only people I have to worry about are friends, family, and if it affects them, then I'll have to think, right, there's something up here, take a look at it. But I just do it. I enjoy chatting football. I enjoy the column, and if it offends someone, then it's not my problem.
No, it's because it's really interesting. I brought up because one of the ones I noticed actually really was Porrick Harrington was doing some punditry work on golf, and he's brilliant. Like he just cuts through all the noise and all that. There was one clip he was talking about someone's swing, and he was sort of analysing. He was like, "Yeah, sort of nice player, but like it doesn't have the mental strength to win that." And, like and just boom, cut through it. Like
I love that. Too,
but like there's just not. Like there's just not enough of that in the world, I don't think. And you touched like if it's some of the societal issues, and actually one of the things I was going to ask you about was around sort of relationship, I suppose, between. We've touched on the critical thinking aspect of it, but I suppose the relationship maybe between sports, politics, and societal issues, be it whatever they may be. How do you feel about that mixture and that relationship? Do you see one?
There is, like I said, actually said it in a column a few weeks ago that whether we like it or not, like sport and politics are intertwined, and you know what happens in today's society and inevitably, you know, ends up getting involved in sport and then politics, and it's just part of the process. Like there's so because they're so intertwined. It's going to happen. It's just how you accept it and how you deal with it. That you know, there's people part of the squad I was with Donegal, and they were polar opposites in terms of ideologies and politics and all that. Like, but I would have got on with them. I would have trusted them as friends, and
people are allowed to have different opinions.
Yeah. And I think that's what we need to learn from squads, and we need to learn from when this whole thing is mixing, if that makes sense. You know, that people are allowed to have different opinions. People are allowed to say something without the whole world just jumping down their nose. And it's a kind of awkward enough one to explain there, but it's part of it, like, and it always will be part of it, because like sport is so big and so important thing that it's just going to happen. Like.
Yeah, and I suppose one of the other reasons, I think, is as sports people, we also have a voice that people are probably at times more willing to listen to. Because come back to it, you are sort of respected, or if you are liked or disliked for what you do on the field, but people will, regardless of the perception of playing, I think they will tend to hear it. Because I remember back 2015, you got involved with the yes side vote on the referendum, didn't you? And because I remember seeing it, because I did as well. I remember someone approached me and asked me would I do an article about it, and I said, yeah, of course I will. Or on the vote yes side. And I think, well, lots of lads were involved. You were the only one I saw actually put out a thing saying like, yeah, okay. Not that no one else did, but I remember seeing a written article about it. That's basically what I'm saying. I'm not saying other people didn't. What, just out of interest, where did that come from, or that inspiration to do that, or inspiration might be the right word, but the rationale?
I'll tell you, it was simple enough rationale. I would have known a fella from the school, and he was gay, and he was part of whatever, I think it was the Donegal branch. Okay. And he just gave me a text and says, do you want to take part in the launch? Like, and be honest with you, I was very, very ignorant, like, to the whole, I thought we'd move past that stage and move past, judging people and their sexuality. And then I did the launch, and within a few days there was this big furore.
Yeah, you got slack for it. I got away with everything.
Yeah. And Rory Carroll did a bit too, and he never got anything. I was thinking, what's wrong with these guys? And I was getting letters to the house saying that you're going to hell.
Are you serious?
Yeah. There's some letter. It showed a column of some priest who had died, and he had visited hell. Okay. And he says, this is where you are going, and you're leading the people of Ireland to this place. And you are a good person, but pull back, and you can save yourself, and all this stuff.
What's going through your head when you get that? Like,
I was laughing at about it, and it was kind of it was a badge of honour for all the lads. Look at this, boys. I've got hate mail, and there were stuff going on too that I was called out on the pulpit. In McGee this was a local mass, and some of my, I wouldn't be holy myself now, but some of my friends and some of my neighbours are very holy, and they're sitting at the mass and they're thinking, McGee has been called out here, and it leaves them in a conflicted. It left them in a conflicted situation. Like, was who do we back? Do we back the church here, or do we back Eamon over the road? And they're thinking, geez, we're conflicted here. And I don't think in no way, because I went for a yes vote in the marriage referendum, that should have happened. I thought it was ridiculously. But same time, I put myself out there, and you did the same yourself. You have to take a few knocks with it, and it was just part of it. Like, but it was interesting. It opened my eyes, it gave me a bit of confidence, because I've grown too in terms of I've always been opinionated. So I felt myself at the time. People might disagree with it too, that I was making a difference. I was helping out, and it was a good feeling. Like, yeah. I liked that. I liked that fact that when I retired, somebody from loveliest letter too, like, just to balance it out with the thing that said I was going to hell. This fella from Waterford, I think it is, and I don't even remember the name, but he says, "Listen, all the best, quick letter, all the best in your retirement. I just wanted to say, my son, who's gay, really took a lot from you giving your message, and your particular message, because I think there's one of the flyers that are going around that says that if I'm lucky enough to have a daughter or son and they turn out to be gay, then I'd like them to be able to marry." And he said that resonated with him, and I was 10 foot tall when I read that letter, and
Imagine so.
I think at that then coming off that, it's inspired me to be to try and get more involved and stuff, and to try and, because we're here to make a difference. We're here. You talk about the All Black philosophy, to take it back to sporting. We're here to be a good ancestor. So the society that I leave Daisy now, my daughter, I want her to be better than the one that I came into. So that's the overall goal. Sometimes I go through phases where I couldn't be bothered with it, like, but you're allowed to do that, like, and just on that whole marriage referendum and thing. I think for the first day it was funny, because Joanne works as a beautician, and she was up and she was working away, and there's a bit of work being done out the back, and one of the lads was in getting a cup of tea, and he goes, "Jesus, Eamon McGee's gay." I never thought that. And there was just that bit of confusion that I'd come out, like, and Joanne was there, like, "No, as far as I know, that she's not gay."
And she's in an informed position.
Yeah, I'm in an informed position.
It's funny you say that, actually, because I got that as well. I was just out one night, and so a fella I didn't even know him come to me and said, "Oh, I didn't know you were gay," like, and I was like, well, I'm not. I was like, "Well, why would you be voting yeah?" Like, and I was like, is this conversation actually happening? Like, and then if a few points in as well, and you have to just take a deep breath and walk away. But I obviously didn't. My answer was the exact same as yours around having a son or a daughter who may be gay, and if they wanted to get married, well, fucking sure, they should be able to.
Exactly. I just thought it's just one less.
Which is funny to hear that story as well. But look, that's sort of, because the reason I brought that whole strand up around that sort of sports and politics and societal issues is that, like, I feel as sports people, it's not as if I feel as if sports people should be dictating policy and deciding what policy is, but that doesn't mean that you can't voice an opinion for something that you believe in, or you want to play, or as you said, have a positive impact on that young guy's life that you mentioned in Waterford there. Before I move on for that one, if in a hypothetical world I threw Eamon McGee and tomorrow was Taoiseach, is there a particular issue that you feel as a country or society we need to address? Is there something that you're passionate about now?
Something I'm passionate about now is probably just going back to that whole, critical thinking, evidence-based, moving forward as a society. I think that should be brought into, every aspect of society and how we go forward. Obviously I would love Ireland to become a world leader in science. That's, if I was teaching now, that's one of the first things I would actually do, is try and get all the best and become this center learning. And we're never going to be able to, we're just too small a country to be able to, best thing we can do basically is export knowledge. And we can import some of the best researchers or scientists, and if that's the the way forward I would go. This is the way I would market Ireland. Like, but thankfully, people are saying that Eamon McGee's not Taoiseach, because there would be a lot of things I would change too. Like.
Sticking with science there for a moment, because I know you're studying science at the minute. And is that a general science degree?
Yeah, it's a start general. First 2 years is general, and then you narrow it down.
Okay.
And hope to I struggle a wee bit at maths, but I'm hoping to go into physics. So we'll see how I get on this year, and narrow it down into the physics side of it now. But it's something I enjoy. When I'm doing it part time, and I have work, I have a child, I've still do a wee bit with the club, and I have other stuff too. So it's tough to get the balance. But I feel that if you love something, I love science, I love talking about it, I love reading up on it. So it's easier for me to come home from a hard day's work and get stuck into chatting about nuclear fusion, nuclear fission, or something like that. There, it's might not be much fun when you go on to equations or algebra or anything like that there, but I'm definitely enjoying it.
You say it straight out there. I love science. I was just, when I was thinking as you were saying that, would you have lost or misplaced that love for a while you were in the football bubble? Does that take over those other strands in life?
Yeah, definitely. It's just time's precious when you're involved with an inter-county squad, and you're putting it into a level that we were putting it into, and you have partner, girlfriend, you have different stuff. You have to get a bit of aiming time in too. So might not have, I wouldn't say I neglected it, but it didn't grow either. Like, I just maintained it, and now that I want to grow it and expand my knowledge, and I want to become the go-to guy if you have a science question.
Yeah, I'll put you on my friend list if ever on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
No, don't be any maths questions. Don't rely on me.
But keep sticking on that note. And obviously we started off by myself asking you around how life now is and what you're doing. So in terms of just looking towards the future, because we've talked about lots of different things so far. Yeah. In terms of looking for the future, where do you see Eamon McGee going? What's the vision you have in mind at the moment? What's that look like?
Obviously I want to be a good father to Daisy. That's the main one. And
Daisy's what age now?
She's 9 months. Okay. She's coming on 10 months. That's the main one. It's a whole different ballgame when you become a father, and priorities change. Definitely I'll be involved in GA. I think I have the bug, or I'm still have that love for GA, that I'll be involved in it my whole life.
Where do you see that going?
I want to give the club a good shot. Yeah. Obviously, not, as I said earlier, not to the same intensity and the same pressure as inter-county thing,
but have a positive impact.
But have try and bring stuff that I've learned through the journey to the club, and unique aspect where I was, that I know how not to do things, but I also know how to do things right because of the way Donegal's journey's been. And I love coaching. I love trying to pass on a message, or trying to if I was to come up against Jim McGuinness, like, I would love that, to be able to try to work out the system. And I think that there's room there for far better. We don't need to, as you talked earlier, we don't need to see this endless replicated stuff. We can go out and we can work on ourselves, be confident as coaches, and I feel that I want to do that, and not now because I want to play, but there will be stages where I want to see myself as a coach now, and if it's minor, club minor, or senior in the county, we'll see where the journey takes us now.
I'm going to finish up with probably an important question that lots of people that will want to know when they listen to this interview, and I think it was mentioned once or twice in Jim McGuinness's book as well, but which of the McGee brothers was the hardest?
It all depends now what kind of situation. That was a common enough thread once they cracked it up on the bus. There was a few pints taken, and I don't know who I should the first challenge now, but obviously the boys knew that they were dealing with two kind of Tran enough bucks, and they started saying, who is the strongest McGee? And of course we took the bait straight away like two Egypts. And I think it got to the stage where we were shouldering each other saying, stop the bus.
I was joking with that question, but just it's the last question I was going to ask you is around considering all the things we've talked through and different life experiences and journeys that you've been on. If you could pass on one key life lesson to, if it was a group of students in school, if you're asked to do that, or if it was let's keep it a young group of students. If you could pass on one life lesson, or you'd like to share one thing that you've learned, what would it be out of interest?
I think the most important, because it's actually funny, we were talking about this very thing yesterday. I would say that, just live every day. We tend to get stuck on the future or worried about the past. Like, we forget that we're living the day. And if I was to give, that's one thing I found about this time is so precious. Like, we're talking about, retirement and this and that. And, today's the day, and you just live on the day. And, obviously you have to learn from your past, and you have to make plans for your future, but, it's how you get through the day, and don't spend it either in the past or the future, so. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It absolutely, completely does. And just finishing up, I just want to thank you for your honesty, your insight, for sharing some of those lessons, good times and bad times that you've gone through. I think people relate to a huge amount of that. I think there's just so much in there, and I've really enjoyed having this conversation, and I want to thank you for being part of the series, because I said you've 100% added so much, and just to wish you obviously the best luck in your life ahead. The transition you're going through at the moment, with fatherhood, with career, with lifestyle, with all the things that are going on that come at this point in life, and just to wish you the best of luck with it. And I think as you've talked through there, the nuggets of wisdom that you have, I think you're on the right track, and I wish you the best luck, and I look forward to seeing what you do in the future. So thanks a million, and we'll talk to you again.
Cheers, Jan. Always good to listen to it, and is proud to be part of the podcast, and all the best for yourself too.
Gent, thank you very much. Well, what an episode that was. And once again, from the bottom of my heart, I'd just like to thank Eamon McGee for his incredible honesty throughout our conversation. If you enjoyed that chat as much as I did, please do subscribe to our show on iTunes, SoundCloud or Stitcher. You can find us there simply by searching for Real Talks, or just go to www.realtalks.ie. Before I go, I just want to thank our sponsors, Kelly Bradshaw Dalton, for believing in this podcast and in the importance of showing that GAA players are far more than just footballers or hurlers. Check out kbd.ie for all your property needs. My name is Alan O'Mara, and you've been listening to episode 6 of the Real Talks podcast.